So we talked about the first half of season two with Abbott Elementary at the end of 2022. Of course, they had their mid-season break, and so we sort of did a quick recap of the episodes that we saw up until that point. I think they had released 10 on ABC before they went on hiatus, and then they've just come back after the new year and released the final 12 episodes of the season and sort of concluding season two. And so Abbott Elementary has been the award sensation of the year. It's been one of the most talked about new television shows that we've seen, and it's certainly just made its mark already in the short time that it's been on the air, and it's already been greenlit and renewed for season three. So certainly can't wait for that to come back around later this fall. But wanted to just talk about everything that we saw over the course of the second half of season two. And of course, again, the finale of this season and just where all of the storylines sort of wrapped up, at least for the time being, until we revisit this show later this fall. But with all of that out the way, man, I'll just pass it over to you. What were your overall thoughts about everything we got out of the second half of season two?
Man, there are some episodes in Abbott Elementary that it's just bar after bar after bar, and then you laugh, and then you're laughing. It's just it remains, I think, the perfect tonal, I think, just conglomerate. I don't know what to call it, but the perfect medium of everything I think I want out of Abbott Elementary and everything it's been doing since season one. And now we're here again, the end of season two, and it's like it hasn't gotten old. It still remains fresh. There are still new problems that arise, and you can still click on a random episode and have a great time no matter what the overarching themes or storylines are for the season, because it's just again, every episode has something to say, and I really love that about it. And so I think the second half of season two just remains, just is doing everything it needs to do, man. I think Abbott Elementary, I think Quinta Brunson just gets it. I think the actors and actresses in this show have just hit a stride, and everyone just understands why they're there, and they do their job, and it remains a tremendous show because of that. And so I love every little building block they continue to add to the show as well, whether it's something a teacher goes through, whether it's something specifically to a Black student, whether it's something all the whole staff is going through, whether it's love things. It's just, it remains a show that, I don't know, I think just gets it, and it remains entertaining and fun because of that. So yeah, man, I'm still aboard. Abbott Elementary season two is still being one of the most fun things on TV, and one of the, I think, more consistent television shows on TV. And I already miss it. I'm like, dang, man, this is it for now. Like, this is like one of them shows that feels like I don't know. I think people watch TV more linear nowadays, right? Where back in the day, you used to just watch an episode of My Wife and Kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, randomly. It never had to be episode 2 of My Wife and Kids, episode 3. But now, something like Abbott Elementary, where we're all tuned in, we're all watching this thing in order. It's just kind of sad that, like, next week I'm like, well, dang, where's Abbott at? Like, do I want to watch a random episode one day? You know what I mean? So I think that's interesting too. But man, Abbott is it's on fire, and it's hard for me to see a moment in which that fire goes out, man. It really is.
So I think season two, everything that we've gotten has just built on all of the incredible success of season one. And like all the great sitcoms and especially the mockumentaries that Abbott takes some influence from, like The Office or Parks and Rec, it presents you with those funny situational elements of just where they are and just what they have to deal with. Obviously, this being an elementary school, there's going to be many scenarios and situations that come up that are unique to that environment that we're going to take sort of a specific look at week to week. But then it's also building the larger storylines, the A storylines that are the overarching things that we really follow, that connect us, to the overall threads of the characters and just where they are in their particular journeys. And I think that season two as a whole, and definitely with the second half, they just kicked that up another level, right? And I think that all of those things started to slowly pay off, but also still leave a lot left to be desired, so that we can continue to tune in and see like where everything goes in the future. I do think that the first 10 episodes as a whole are stronger than the second half, the most recent 12
Mm-hmm.
episodes that we got. But that's not to say that these most recent 12 aren't good. They're still great. But that first 10 was like literally every single week, I thought that we were like breaking
Mm-hmm.
new ground. This time around, I think we kind of settled in a little bit more and started to like
Yeah.
really, really focus in on some very specific elements, which I think is kind of necessary. You can't you probably can't keep up that same pace, that same just like frenetic pace on a week to week basis for an entire season. And so I think that they made a smart choice to kind of pull back a little bit on some of the development with some of these stories and give a little bit more breathing room. But still, overall, it was fun to watch. There were some great moments and also some great resolutions and just great character explorations that we got. We got a lot of moments to go a little bit deeper with some of our primary characters and just got to get a better understanding of their backstories, their families, where their vantage points are, where they're coming at certain situations from. All that
Hmm.
stuff was just really, really well done. And so I think that it's in a great space right now. It can't do any wrong for me because week to week I get very excited to watch Abbott. And so I'm certainly eagerly anticipating the return of it this fall. I do want to talk about a couple of key moments that just occurred over the season. So if you haven't caught up with Abbott, would encourage you to go finish those episodes, watch that. This is going to be a quick spoiler conversation about where things are currently with the state of our characters. One of the things that we sort of dove a little bit deeper into in the second half specifically was Janine's family and specifically her relationship with her mother and her sister. And we got the appearance of
Hmm.
Io Edebiri playing her sister and also Taraji P. Henson playing her mother. And so we finally got to put some faces to these people that she's been referencing really from the start of the show. And we quickly found out that those relationships aren't that great. They're in very challenging places for very different reasons with both of them, which she's certainly alluded to as a character. But I think, again, we finally got to see that writ large on the television screen and see how that would play out once they actually became real fixtures in the show. We saw both of them show up in person. It wasn't just
Hmm.
a FaceTime call. Io Edebiri visited town and stayed with Janine. Taraji, as her mother, came, by Abbott and just sort of like popped up surprisingly to quote unquote visit her, but we know it was a little bit deeper than that. What were your thoughts just about seeing
Hmm.
those relationships develop and also just like how they manifested with those two actors in particular, sort of portraying her mother and her sister and how that played off of their relationships with Janine specifically?
Man, I really loved seeing Io Idabiri as her sister. It was something about her, that quirkiness that exists in Janine kind of does slightly exist in her sister as well, but she's so much more, I think, I guess disconnected and quote unquote cooler because of the way I guess she had to leave, right, and explore her own avenues in the world, and that is a I think one of those relationships that a lot of us as millennials can understand. A lot of us left somewhere and somebody did not like it. You know what I mean? Somebody did not like that you left. So I really that's the of course there's the relationship with her mom too, but it's something about the relationship with her sister. I was like, I can see that, and I can see both sides too, which I think is makes that a little more multi-layered of a conversation that they had than anything, man. But I love those threads. I think that they put in there. They had had been talking about her sister and her mother throughout all of these episodes, right? And to finally see them and to finally see the way that they treat Janine is like, man, this girl is, of course, she's not without faults, right? But we all know after watching Janine that she is I don't think naive is the word per se all the time. Of course, she has a little naiveness to her, but she's so nice. Janine is just so nice. And I think the way the world treats her, or the lack of boundaries that she sets, I think for herself is, again, it's like one of the more adult things in the show, right? Where Abbott Elementary is, to me, for all audiences, right? It's on ABC, but I think that's really like an adult thing to talk about, is those relationships between your mother and the sister, is those you're not setting enough boundaries, this is going to happen to you kind of thing, but within those relationships. So I really like those through lines, and I really like the choices of Io Edebiri and Taraji P. Henson. I thought they worked pretty well for what they had to do. In those relationships are, again, can be broken down and talked about. So yeah, I enjoyed seeing both of them, but I really like the relationship between her and Io Edebiri.
Certainly. I think to speak to the relationship with her mom and Taraji P. Henson coming in, and that was the penultimate episode where we saw
Yep.
really how their relationship was going to play out, and to find out that she had merely shown up to get money to pay off her phone bill so that her phone wouldn't get cut off. I mean, we knew that
Crazy.
something something crazy was, sort of up her sleeve to begin with. She always kind of seemed a little bit shaky, especially when you hear Janine say like, "Oh yeah, I've been trying to call you and you haven't returned my
Hmm.
calls and we haven't really spoken that much. How have you been?" Like Janine's trying to actually like see what's going on. Like, how are you doing? And then her mom is just very short with her, very curt and almost, passive aggressive at times too. Like this place
Hmm.
isn't good enough for you, baby. But she's only saying stuff like that in order to goad her daughter and to helping her out with her phone
Butter
bill.
her up.
And it would be at the sacrifice also of this personal trip that Janine wants to take for herself because she's coming off of the heels of the relationship that she had with Vince Staples' character, and the stuff with Greg is still a
Hmm.
bubble and still, sort of developing. So she's in this place of like wanting time for herself, which is totally reasonable. She's going to finish up the school year very soon. And so now she's in a place to just like take a solo trip, right? And who wouldn't want something like that after working so hard and also dealing with some personal challenges as well? And now her mom comes in and potentially threatens, the existence and the possibility of that idea. And I just love the fact, that Cheryl Lee Ralph, Barbara comes in and is like, you can't do that. Like, we cannot allow you to have your mother come in and really just derail these plans that you have for yourself. It won't be good for you. And you see Barbara like step up and
Hmm.
is willing to pay that money for her mom's phone bill. That really got me because you just understand that like
Yeah.
Barbara in this time has sort of become a mother-like figure to Janine. And you see
Hmm.
that in that specific moment, how she's just like at the first line of defense for Janine, even against her own mother. And so that just really stood out to me. So I just loved how they went
Yeah.
deeper into those threads and got into the really emotional moments too. What did you have a favorite, sort of like overall episode or a couple of like favorite overall episodes from just like the second half? There were a lot of key things that went down. I think for me, if I had to pick out a favorite one, it was probably the conference that they went to, which I think was like maybe the third or fourth episode in the second half
Mm.
of the season. It was the moment where,
Yeah.
Janine and Greg finally like shared their first kiss. They ducked off, from the social and went and had their first kiss. It was just a great moment to kind of see. And I think that was at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, they were on a very hot winning streak. They were coming off of a lot of award wins. And so just a conversation around
Hmm.
Abbott at that particular time, and I think it was February when that episode aired, it was just like, yeah, this is the show. And now like the moment that everybody's been waiting for finally happened. So that probably stood out as like the best moment of this half of the season. But did you have any like standouts or any episodes in particular that were favorites for you?
Yeah, it's also crazy that same episode aired, remember, really close to the Harley Quinn special, where they were playing Hawkman and Hawkgirl and they
That's
were
right.
in a relationship. So it's just really funny that it all kind of was like at the same time. Man, I really, really like the teacher's appreciation episode. And it's because what Greg has to do in that episode, there are so many bars being thrown. I'm telling you, man, when I say quotables are in that episode, I mean, it was just, I was like, I don't know what's going on in this episode and what's going on with the writing, but y'all are bringing everything home. So I really like the episode. And it's hilarious because of I always forget the gender's name. Mr. Johnson
Hmm.
is also hilarious in that episode where all the teachers are like trying to win these tickets for the court side of the 76ers game. And Mr. Johnson ends up getting the tickets somehow. It's just a really good episode to me. But really it was the story beats, and the overarching, one of the biggest quotes to me that came out of that episode. I remember where they were like, you don't get to choose when you're recognized, right? Gregory was like, I don't deserve this, like I haven't even done anything. And I think it was Melissa, she's like, well, it doesn't matter because you don't get to choose when you're recognized, so just enjoy it. I was like, dang, that's real. Like when you get recognized for something, you're not like, oh, I feel like getting recognized for this thing. No, somebody has to come to you and do that. So it's like own the moment while you have the moment. I really love that idea, and that overarching thing for that episode. So yeah, teachers appreciation, man. If anybody rewatches that episode, I'm telling you, get a pen and paper because they was dropping them. It was crazy.
Yeah, I also want to shout out the festival episode, which sort of like resolved that charter school storyline. There was the looming threat that Abbott was going to be,
Yes.
sort of taking over and become a charter school, which would just displace a lot of the kids. It would create so much disarray, and
Hmm.
the teachers weren't for that. And it was nice to just see all the staff and the teachers come together and put on like this event to basically rally around Abbott and say like, yeah, we don't want that. Like Abbott might not be the most well-resourced school. We know that. We know that we're not necessarily up to par when it comes to certain things, but but we won't have to deal with any of the problems that a charter school system might have to deal with because kids will have to apply. It's going to be a whole thing, right? It's going to just really mess up the entire community. And so I just liked how they resolved that storyline, at least temporarily. It might come back around in season 3. We'll have to see. But lots of great moments this season. Certainly cannot wait to see everything that they do in Abbott Elementary for season 3 when it returns this fall. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the second half of Abbott Elementary season 2. If you've checked out the most recent episodes, hit us up and let us know what you think.